This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
It's 9:30 in the morning, but I'm up. I was up at 7 a.m.
Yeah, champs always get up early. That's the thing, right?
That's called children. You might want to get up and get some shit done around now so that they get up before they take all your time.
Hey guys, how you doing? It's Mick Tully from Woma TV, so World Martial Arts Television, and I'm talking to the man who doesn't need any introduction. It's one of the only things that myself and Joe Rogan agree on, which is this guy is the GOAT when it comes to MMA. He is the greatest of all time, and his record shows it. The one and only Mr. Demetrious Johnson. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
You know, your last fight, and you know, if that had been anywhere else, that would have been a controversial finish. So you know that was as soon as it happened, I turned around and I was like this. I was like, that never happened. He didn't train for that. There's no way that would have happened normally. So you know, but that's me. I'm a big mark for you anyway. So can you tell us a little bit about, you know, looking back on the fight and stuff?
I felt the fight was it was a good fight. You know, Adriano's a tough guy. Very, very methodical about the way he goes about fighting. And sometimes when I look back on it, I'm like, I should have been more patient. I should have let him cross distance, or I should have never put myself in that predicament. And like I said, you know, with that, I've been dropped before, right? Like if anybody's followed my career, I've been dropped before. Joseph's dropped me. Dodson has dropped me. I've been rocked by Dominic Cruz. So it's not like it's unfamiliar territory, but usually when I get dropped, I'm able to recover, right? Yeah. And when I was trying to recover, put my arm right in his that underhook, one hand down on the ground trying to get up, and then bam, just got blasted at a knee. So, and yeah, like you said, it's something you don't train for. And I told my coach and my teammates, I was like, guys, like, you think about it, when we get who in here trains concussed, or not concussed, excuse me, who in here trains rocked? Like, who gets rocked and like, okay, let me hit you till your equilibrium is gone and get up. Like, you don't train that, right? So it was a good Adrian was able to capitalize on that and come up with the victory. But it was a great fight, and you know, it's over and done with, and now we're moving forward to see what's up next.
Yeah, you see, well, this is the thing, you know, obviously when you moved over, you know what it's like. MMA is a really bizarre sort of sport anyway. You know, you got guys who watch Bellator, and then you got guys who watch UFC, and they believe that the UFC is literally, you know, I train UFC bro merchants. You know, they truly believe that that's the only thing. And I literally was only going to watch one for you. And then it was like, when I looked at Adriano's record, and I was like, wow. And then he's a huge guy, a tall guy for that division as well. He was like 5'8". Did that figure into your plans when you were going into the fight? You know, because that's a very tall guy.
Typically, you know, in my career, when I fight at 135, when I fight at 135 in North America, I typically fought taller guys like Miguel Torres, Dominic Cruz, you know, and then when I fought 125, I fought majority smaller guys Joseph, Dodson, Kyoji, Chris Curiaso. Then you have, the oddball guys like Tim Elliott, who's taller for the division.
Yeah.
I've always had a little bit harder time with the longer guys because I have to cross distance. I have to get there and cross distance to be able to get my hands on them, right? Or you can play the patient, slow game where, I'm not going to cross to put myself in the fire. So it's a slippery slope, right? Do you want to take your time and, not be as excited, or you're like, fuck this, let's fight, let's get in the mix of it, and you run into certain things. That's how I've always been in my career, when I fight. But we always take the accountability, but it's just something I have to deal with now. And I just feel like the flyweights are getting taller. I was in Vegas training with a couple guys, and they're like 5'7", 5'8". I was like, you guys make 125? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, if I was 5'8", I'd be stacked. I'd be boom. I'll at least be, if I was 5'8", I'll probably be just the way I lift and how I like to have a lot of muscle on my body. Like I'm 5'3" and I weigh 43 pounds because I've been lifting heavy. Like I've got up to like 146. I'm really focused on just lifting. When I get bored and there's nothing to do and there's no fights going on, I'm like, I'm gonna go start lifting heavy and see if I put some like just beach body muscle and look bigger. So I feel like if I was 5'8", like I feel like I would be probably working like, maybe 155. And that's just me. I'm not 5'8", I'm 5'3". So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, this is the thing, obviously, my whole take, especially in MMA, now that it's become a sport, I'm a big fan from back in the day where, you had like Emmanuel Yarborough walking in, and he was like 600 pounds, and fighting a guy who was like 190. And those, they're great on New Year's Eve when you're watching a Japanese show or wrestling, all day long. But then when you're looking at it as a sport, I've seen it, especially with Conor McGregor, as soon as he got past 27 years of age, and it was like, he's going to cut weight. And I was like, what, is he going to get a leg chopped off? What's he going to do? Because it's the only way he's going to make weight. Like, it's like, if you don't mind me asking, as you're getting older, is weight cutting like an issue for you?
So in my whole entire career, I've never actually worked with a dietitian to cut to 125 or even 135. I mean, when I start training and I'm getting into fighting mode, I'll get down to like 138, like that. Like my muscle literally starts falling off, and then I become more of a long distance athlete because I've ran long distance my whole entire life since being a kid. So would I ever cut to 125 now, being 35 years old? I would hire a dietitian. Like, I know I can do it, but would I want to do it? Those are two different things. Like, I can if I want to, right? But do I want to? No, not really. I mean, I could, but then I don't want to go through the process of changing my whole eating habits and losing all the muscle I've been trying to put on and all that stuff. But, I just don't, it's something that I haven't really looked into, right? Like, if I know I can make it, but I just don't know if I want to do that to my body.
Yeah, exactly that. So, like, going forward, have you thought of any upcoming fights, or have you got anything in the pipeline, or what's the situation with one now?
Obviously, I got fights left. And right now I've been focusing on helping my buddy get ready for his pro debut. He's fighting September 24th. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I would love to get another fight in by the end of the year before, hopefully COVID shuts everything down again. So right now I'm staying healthy and working out. I feel good. Weight's good. So I'm just chilling.
Yeah, you see, like, this is the other thing that's been very interesting. I don't know if you've looked at it through COVID. The one thing, there's a hell of a lot of stuff that you can take issue with different like MMA organizations. But the one thing with the UFC, the whole thing with Fight Island, and the way that when everyone else was hiding behind the sofa, they actually had, but it's the truth, right? You're right. they had the world up and running again. And like, okay, they had to get like a James Bond level island in the middle of the Middle East, you know what I mean, to do it. Like, I literally thought at one stage Daniel Craig was going to come in, because it was like, we're going to call it Fight Island. And I'm like, what time does Dr. Evil show up here? You know, like, you know, like Dana White could be the next Bond villain anyway. But they really, really managed to get the fight game going again. So, like I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and like training wise, we did the whole online Zoom classes and with the dummy and stuff, and I just couldn't get it. But we were just managing to keep moving. How did you keep training during COVID? Because that fascinates me.
Well, it was definitely hard because everything got shut down. You know, even our gym got shut down. Like I think it was like a $10,000 or $15,000 fine if you the gym was open, if your business was open to operation. So, and you know, in Washington, COVID, when it broke out here in Washington State, our gym was like 10 minutes away from the pandemic, the actual like ground zero, I guess you can say, in a nursing home. So for us, we took it very, very seriously. Matt took it very seriously, especially, you know, some of us have elderly parents have had that. My mom's battled cancer. She's had lung cancer. Matt's parents are older. A lot of our gym members are older. So we shut it down, and we did what we could to train and work out. But there was a point in time where it's like I didn't train for, I think, 3 or 4 months. You know, I stayed healthy, running and exercising and eating healthy, but as far as like hand-to-hand combat, hidden pads, all that stuff, I just didn't even think about it. I just started being a dad. Well, I'm always a dad, but I started focusing more on at home life.
Yeah. I did exactly the same. My wife reckons that Corona's been the greatest thing for me, because I've had to spend more time at home, and obviously when I was able to get back training, you know, I really, really enjoyed it. You just mentioned Matt Hume, right? A good friend of mine. He fought a really good friend of mine, Coach Erik Paulson. Back in the day, yeah.
Great battle at was that Extreme Cage Battles, or I forget what the name of the thing, but yeah, it was a great fight between Matt Hume and Erik Paulson. Great fight.
Yeah, it was a really good fight, because Erik used to always, when he was over in the UK, used to always reference you, because it was just at the beginning of the MMA explosion, where you got you know, you had two camps. You had traditional martial artists who were taking the bravery pill and then getting the crap kicked out of them either at jiu-jitsu or Thai boxing, and then pretending it didn't exist and went back to just doing martial arts. Or you had the other guys who were just coming in, they've never done martial arts. And whenever a young guy used to come in, or a smaller guy used to come in, he was straight away, he'd always reference you. And you were like the guy to go to. And I'd always say, how tall? And he goes, 5'3". And you're like, whoa. And he goes, yeah, but there's a lot of whoop. He used to always say, there's a lot of whoop ass in that 5'3". You know. So I hope Erik doesn't mind me saying that. What I did, if you don't mind, was I put out on social media, believe it or not, and it was nearly all of my friends from. I've got to give a shout out: Gracie Barrett Cannock, Gracie Barrett Warsaw, and Gracie Barrett Erdington. A lot of my friends were like, you're interviewing Demetrious Johnson, and they were like, yeah, straight away. There was loads of questions. Some were random, some weren't. But if I hope you don't mind, I'm going to ask you just a couple. First of them was what was the most mentally challenging moment of your career?
Mentally challenging moment. I would say training for the fight. I think I'll probably say training for my fights, because we want perfection, right? We want perfection in the gym. That when we go out and we fight, it's perfect. It's easy. We made it look easy. And I can date back to when I was getting ready to fight Kyoji Horiguchi. He has a very unique style of blitzing across distance and also keeping distance and running. And I remember like sparring and drilling with Matt, and Matt would just run like literally run from me. And I would not chase him. I would chase him, but I would stay in my stance. And it was the most frustrating mental thing. I was like, this is fucking stupid. I was like, this is what this is. It's just, yeah. But it worked out. We went out and we got the W. So it's honestly, for me, it's the training, because it's so much like detail. And sometimes I'm like, we don't need all this detail. Like, let me just be in the best shape of my life and let me go on there and fight. And when I went to Vegas, I just went to Vegas and I started sparring. And one of the things I loved about my amateur career is that I would learn how to fight. And when I go in there to fight, I want to know who you get a name, right? Like nowadays, you fight somebody. It's like, okay, you're going to fight Joseph Benavidez again, right? Joseph. Okay, perfect. Then we'll go back and watch all his fights. And see his efficiencies and all that stuff. Then when you get in there, you don't really test. You test your skills, but you're not really testing your skills, right?
Yeah.
When you're an amateur, it's like you're fighting this guy on this date. There's no video on whatsoever. That's it. Yeah. You show up and it's like, okay, round one. You move, you start testing, you find your range, you know nothing. It's like oblivious. Like that's one of the things I loved about sorry, I went on a tangent, but I just went to Vegas and I had to do that. I was sparring guys that I didn't know anything about, and I couldn't find I had to find their efficiencies, where they're good at and where they were bad at. And I love that. That's like probably one of the things that intrigues me about mixed martial arts. So
yeah. The unknown quantity is the real one. It's like when you go to a new mat and you're there and you just, unfortunately, you look at guys and you look at the size of them, and sometimes, you buy into the tattoos they've got and everything as well, and then you're like, oh my, and they've, sometimes it can have you half beaten here mentally before you even get to grips with them. I've had that so many times, right? So next one was, who was the toughest competitor? Who's the toughest guy you've ever fought?
And like what aspect?
Well, I'm guessing that to get the win. I'm getting.
I've always appreciated Henry Cejudo's battles, because even though the first one went like super easy my way, well, it wasn't super easy, but it went my way easier. Like, I know what type of athlete Henry Cejudo is, and I've always respected him as an athlete. Like his trench thing, he just doesn't get awareness or whatever. But his athleticism and him winning a gold medal and him able to, do something I never did, which was go up to 135 and win a championship there. And then him just like, I'm done, Joe. I'm fucking done. Dana, thanks. And Lorenzo, all you guys, thanks. And him, I can respect, because he's like, he's reached his goal. And our battles and that second fight we had with each other, he's such a gamemanship, and him to battle through adversity when I took his legs out and he'll come back, and then being able to out wrestle me. And then I remember he took me down and I did a Grammy roll and I was about to come on top and he came up. Like he has a lot of grit, and I've always respected that about him. So like when I sit back and look and I think about our battles, even when I watch them, I'm like, God, that was a good ass fight.
Yeah, well, you see, this is you've led me onto something here, which is I still maintain this, that there's only one rubber match that I really want to see, which is you versus Henry Cejudo, because everything else is just hype. You look at it now. That if we look at any, you want to talk about great fights now, especially in the UFC. Yeah, you're talking about Conor McGregor would rather not have a title fight than make money. There's that whole. Yeah, I thought you guys were supposed to be warriors, and like and
that's, I didn't mean to cut you off, but here's the thing, and that's okay. If Conor McGregor's like, I don't care about title, I want to make money. That's okay, right? I know he's a warrior. I know he's a fucking savage. Like, I mean, we know that. Like, we know. He's been in there bloodied up. He just broke his leg and all that stuff. I've never undoubtedly questioned anybody's will. Like, if you're willing to step in the cage and fight just to fight, you're a savage, right? Because there's a lot of people out there who don't do it. But if an athlete's like, hey, I just want to make money because I know this is going to stop one day and I want to be able to not work full time, that I think that's totally fine. And I think the public and I think journalists and I think everyone in the world needs to look at it in that in that viewpoint where it's like, hey, I the title's all good and Gucci and everything, but I want to make some money. It's just like Floyd Mayweather said, kids can't eat belts, they can't eat legacy. It's the truth. It's the truth.
But you see, this is the thing. Especially, I think we're moving into a new era of MMA, which is because it is personality driven. Like you, while I was doing my research, one of the things that came up that I really found fascinating about you is you were one of the only guys that not just not speaking out about the likes of Logan Paul and Jake Paul, but actually just applauding them and saying, well, they're in a position where they can apply themselves. You know, at the end of the day, they're not doing the WBC. You know, they're not fighting for the UFC. They're having a tear up that we would like. You know, don't get me wrong. Like if we thought that Will Smith and say, I'm trying to think who else we could get from AJ Slater. So I'm trying to put it into a time with this. So the guy from Saved by the Bell versus Will Smith to have a fight, you'd be like, great, because I don't want to see them do Othello against each other. I want to see them fight each other. And that's like, you know, when you look at, like, especially the Paul brothers, those guys are selling fights. Like, you know, when you get Floyd Mayweather to chase you around because you've stolen his hat, you know, and that's making a ton of money. That's genius in my eyes. Can you explain that? Yeah, explain why you applaud it.
Well, I applaud. Well, the biggest thing I applaud is that I think a lot of people don't give the Logan Paul and Jake Paul more respect. Okay, like one, you know, you look at Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley about to fight, right? And that's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a great fight. And the reason why I applaud them is because they have loads of money, right? And they have the best. They can get the best training. They can get the best dietitian. If you take somebody, I can take somebody off the street, an athlete, and I can give him, if I give him 8 weeks the best training, he's gonna do something in the cage. He's gonna do something in the ring, right? That's just how it is, right? So with them stepping into a world where they have never competed for in their lives and actually selling good tickets and making good money and competing with some of the best in the world, I mean, why would I have no reason to hate on those guys. All I have to do is say good job, right? Because guess what? There's a shitload more YouTube stars out there and they're not doing this. No. They're not putting the grind in. They're not doing it, right? So, you know, I look at, you know, Jake Paul and Logan Paul's standpoint where it's like, hey, you know, they want to fight the best in the world like Floyd Mayweather, and I saw maybe Anderson Silva might fight Logan Paul. Shoot, do it. I'll watch. I watched. I'm gonna watch Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley.
Definitely.
And I watched Logan Paul versus Mayweather, and I had a big smile on my face. I was laughing the whole time. I was entertained. I was like this.
Yeah, but well, the thing is, I look at it now, and it's like it's almost like being at a drunk frat party 10 years ago, where people are like, the fights that are happening now are like hypothetical fights, you know, because we always had the dream fight, you know, from the back in the days where Muhammad Ali fought Inoki, when it was a boxer versus a wrestler, you know, and then, you know what it's like. You go to a party and there's some guy and he's drunk and he's saying, who would win out of the Hulk and the Thing? You know, is, you know, that sort of ridiculous conversation that people always have. And now we've got it. It's like, I don't know what the next evolution of that is. They're like, because those Paul brothers, they've got Kardashian level money because of the social media aspect. One of the things that, if you're only an MMA fan, you don't really know. But if you know anything about you, Demetrious, you're absolutely huge in the gaming world and online.
I've been gaming since I've been a kid. I can date back to when I first started. But when I got Twitch, it was a way for me to interact with my fans on a different platform and also show my personality. Because usually I'm gaming for Fight Week, I'm like, I don't want to talk. I'm here just to fight and get out, like get in and get out. And obviously, when I was interacting with more of the fans, I was always kind of late to 125. So it was just, I wasn't as bubbly, but I was always nice. But gaming is something that I've always been able to connect with my fans on because, you know, I can't really connect with my fans on when it comes to training because they don't train unless they do train, right? But usually 8 out of the 10 fans I meet, they don't train at all. So it's very hard to relate. Like, well, you know, you have a conversation. I can have a conversation with, you know, a fan. I'm like, oh man, love your fights here. Like, thanks, man. I appreciate you being a fan. I'm like, oh man, that Mighty Whisper was amazing. You're the best in the world. You're the GOAT. Da 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 da. And that's as far as the conversation will go. Yeah. But if I have a fan who says the exact same thing, but like, dude, what'd you think of fucking Dead Space? I'm like, dude, Dead Space is probably one of my favorite like series of all. Like Isaac Clarke, The Red Marker, Ellie, it's just an amazing game. And then he might be like, so what games are you looking for to come out? I was like, I'm not sure yet. You know, there's another game that's coming out. And he's like, well, have you tried this game? Like, have you looked at this game? I'm like, I haven't. What's it about? The conversation just goes from there all the way up, and we start talking, we start vibing. And then he says, oh man, it's like Onimusha. I'm like, I love Onimusha, Samanowski, Fortinbras, you know, Namanuga, and the third one, and I'm like, I wish they would do a remake of the game. And he'd be like, yeah, I know, man, we need to do a remake of that game. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. We're finally getting a remake of Dead Space, so hopefully one day we'll get a remake. I mean, it's just I have more in common with people who play video games than I do mixed martial arts, right?
How cool is that? We
can just vibe more. And so that's why I started streaming on Twitch. That's why I started gaming. Well, being out there and I met so many cool people through streaming on Twitch. You know, so I will, that's probably one of my, that's why I say I'll game probably for the rest of my life because it brings me entertainment. And I love just sharing those moments with other people around the world about gaming and how it's touched their lives and changed their lives and build their imagination.
Yeah, right. If you don't mind, I'll just drag you back a little bit just to MMA for a second, right? So if there was one moment in your MMA career that would cement your legacy just as you are, as you are one of the greatest of all time, can you think of one that would come straight to mind?
You know, I don't know. I'll leave that to the fans, right? I'll leave it to the fans because for me, it's, you know, I don't say I'm one of the greatest of all time. Like, I think Khabib said it the best. Like, there's so many athletes that have done so many great things in this sport. You know, Anderson Silva, at one point, he looked unbeatable and, you know, he was destroying everybody. Khabib came in there and destroyed everybody. GSP, you know, myself. You know, at one point, everybody was in awe of Dominic Cruz's footwork. Like, there's like, oh, it's a massive puzzle. So I think everybody has shared that spotlight. You know what I mean? Like, has shared that spotlight where they brought something new to the game. For me, it could be my creativity. It can be how I can fight everywhere. And I looked like I had an answer for every single style of combat. So I will leave that to the fans to decide. You know, like for me, I'm just grateful to be amongst those great fighters that I just mentioned that I see high on the pedestal that have competed in mixed martial arts. And yeah, I leave it to the fans to say that.
Yeah, well, first of all, me personally, I still think it's you finished Rayborg. Yeah, you're talking about video games, and that was a video game finish. I still show that to people on YouTube, and they go, "Why do you like jiu-jitsu so much?" And I went, "Have a look at that." And then they're going, is that like from a movie? And I went, no. And that guy not want to get his arm? And I went, no. And I went, that's martial arts, man. It looked like a superpower. You know what I mean? Inside, hey, come on. As highlight reels go, it's up there with the best. Now, if you don't mind, you mentioned Khabib, you mentioned GSP, you mentioned Anderson Silva, you mentioned yourself, right? All absolute legends. The other thing that you all have in common is conduct yourself rather well outside of the cage, right? And the other thing that you've got in common, if you don't mind me saying, is don't really think that any of you were actually pushed. Khabib was great because Khabib was just like an enigma, you know, so like, he sold because of who he was. But you were never, all four of you guys were never pushed the way that I thought that you should have been pushed. And I personally think it's because you didn't have the character traits that, you know, in a personality driven business, And I don't want to. I'm not. By the way, I'm not saying for a second to say that Cody Garbrandt's a real douchebag or Henry Cejudo is, but they're pretty good at acting it. You know, they're pretty good at acting it, and that sells the tickets. Now, do you actually think that is a big factor in promoting, say, fights? In your case, your division was the best division for me at that time in the sport, let alone the organization, and it still didn't get the push. And do you think it was because you weren't prepared to, play up to the camera, or?
It could be, I have no idea. I'm not a promoter, right? And I know everybody likes they get involved or they get excited for different things. If I look at myself, for example, it's very hard for me. Like, I think the last time I got super excited for a fight that got announced was, I remember I was like, ooh, that's a good fight, was Yuya Wakamatsu versus Reese McLaren. I said, oh, that's going to be a good fight because I know both those guys. I fought Yuya Wakamatsu, and I know Reese McLaren is an amazing athlete. Or Charles Oliveira versus, when he fights Dustin Poirier. That's going to be a sick fucking fight. They don't even need to talk. Don't even talk. Don't even say anything. Just make a dope trailer promo. And I'm there. I'm watching that fight because I've competed on the same card as Charles Oliveira, and I've seen his growth from when he fought in the very beginning stage of UFC, and when he fought at 145, now he's at 155. Like, I've seen his growth, and I know both those guys are sick. So I've already had a personal connection with those guys because I've seen them, grow. And that's what gets me excited. So I don't need all the trash talk. I don't need all that stuff. I just need, or another athlete that I can't wait to see come back, Don Lee, which is his last fights when he beat Martin Nguyen. Like, I don't know much about him. I know he's had a stint on Ultimate Fighter. He's won, great knockout artist. And I want to see more of him. You know what I mean? Like, he's piqued my interest. Now you have my curiosity. Like, I want to see more of you. And sometimes it's about just the athlete fighting more, right? It's not about, like, for me, I feel like what like propelled me as like one of, like, people see me as one of the best because I was super active. Like, I remember I fought Joseph, and then I was about to fight, was it the same year? I can't remember. I remember I fought somebody, and then I signed up to fight John Moraga, and then I had to get shoulder surgery. I fought John Dodson, and then I was about to fight John Moraga, but then I had shoulder surgery. Got shoulder surgery, came back, fought John Moraga, and then came back and fought Joseph Benavidez.
Joseph, yes.
Joseph the second time. And then I was fighting, like, I fought 2 to 3 times a year. So I was super active. So sometimes you can, like an athlete, but they don't fight as much, and they kind of, you forget about them, right? Like, which is fine. But for me, those are the ones where it's like, okay, Tom Lee, I want to see him fight. Like, I'm waiting for him to fight. Like, I just want to see him fight. I said, I haven't seen enough of it. Charles Oliveira, I want to see him. I want to see what he does as a champion. You know what I mean? Like, and Dustin, I want to see, I remember having a conversation with Dustin at UFC 178 when he's about to fight Conor McGregor. To see Dustin from that point to now, it's like you build relationship. Like him and Cejudo, when he fights, we shared the cage together. I want to see what he does. He stepped away. So that's what gets me excited. I don't need trash talking stuff. And I have the athletes that I like. And every once in a while, there'll be an athlete that I'm like, I want to see who he fights next. Like, that's just, as for me, a fan, that's what I am. That's how I am.
No, you've said it, because I've said for ages. I've just got your fight history up here. While you were saying it, I just pulled it up, and it's just like busy. You were active, and me personally, I don't think they realised what they had until it was gone. When you went over after your last fight with Henry, and then you went to one. If you don't mind me asking, was that like a weight was lifted off your shoulders a little bit to go over there?
Yeah, and just experience something different and new. To go over to one championship and fight overseas and fight abroad. It wasn't like, it was a breath of fresh air, because then I had to deal with the whole politics, antics of selling pay-per-views and all that stuff. Like, I'm like we're just talking, right? Like, I'm a fan that would tune in to watch an athlete fight, whether they talk shit or not, right? That's just who I am. right? But that's only one buy. So they're going to get like maybe $2 from me buying, right? So it's just like, so for me to go over there and just fight and do my thing and not have to worry about that is good. Like, I am who I am, and it's, you either gonna like it or not. Like, some people say you have no personality. Some people was like, dude, you have the personality. It's just based on preference. So that was a huge weight off my shoulders about trying to, just try to be something that I wasn't, I guess.
Yeah. When you moved over there, the UFC have got the monopoly, and then Bellator every now and again they do have some really good fights, but by and large the UFC do get it. But one, like their reach in that Eastern market is huge. Like, people don't really have any idea until they realize just how many eyeballs will watch one in comparison to the UFC. And yeah, did that inform your choice going over there?
No, it was just me going over there just to test my skill set over in Asia. Like, for me, I've always said it too. When I fought when I was a champion, I was like, I'm gonna fucking fight on Fox, PBS, ABC, MTV. I'm going over the fight. I ain't worried about who's what. I'm going over the fight. So obviously it's good to have the fans watch all that stuff, but I don't dictate whether, my mindset. I didn't dictate, they have this many eyeballs. I wasn't worried about that. I knew wherever I went, I know I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fight and I'm going to perform. If you tune in, you tune in. If you don't, you're bad.
Yeah. You're lost. What's the future like? Because you're a really engaging guy, really funny guy, and obviously you're not going to fight forever unless you want to be like the next Ken Shamrock. No. I think Ken Shamrock will have a fight in an old age people's home. Honestly, I truly believe it. So somebody's stolen his Jello or whatever it is.
Yeah,
what old guys eat, isn't it? I don't know. So, what's the future hold for you after MMA?
Yeah, just after MMA, spend time with wife and kids. Work on other passions. Help my son help my children reach their goals. I know I can't fight forever. It's just unhumanly possible. And I don't know if I would want to do it, but I'm just looking forward to be.
Hey guys, how you doing? It's Mick. Technical issues, man. We lost Demetrious Johnson. We will try and grab him, and it's a good excuse to get back for a second partner, isn't it? I hope you really enjoyed talking to him. I won't lie to you, he's probably one of the coolest guys I've spoken to in martial arts in a long time. No disrespect to any of you guys I've spoken to recently, but come on. This guy's got a flying armbar and he plays Call of Duty. Up your game, boys, if you want to get interviewed by me. See you at the next show. Bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.